Good morning. I'm Pete Najarian. Yes, it's hump day. Everybody's excited when it gets to that midweek, and we want to look ahead a little bit. But before we look ahead, let's look back. And we look back at yesterday. Yesterday's market's definitely under pressure. It really, from the very beginning until the very end, it just did not give us much relief. As a matter of fact, the Dow finished down about 230 points near the lows of the day. The NASDAQ finished down nearly 220 points near the lows of the day as well. Gives you a little bit of an idea. And this happened throughout the day. This wasn't one of these roller coaster rides like we've been seeing. This was primarily just a start of the day and then finish the day. And we just continued to move to the downside. Nearly a 2% move to the downside from the NASDAQ. Crude, well, it hung in there pretty nicely right around that 96 level. Volatility did start to lift up. We talked about that yesterday here on the take, where we were down in the 23s. We got into the 24s. We finished just below the 25s yesterday. So we're 2470 in terms of that volatility index. The VXN continues to be a little bit softer as well, but getting a little bit of a lift with that pressure, just like the VIX itself. Volumes, again, Tuesday, those volumes were terrible. I'm looking at 28.5 million. We go back to Monday. We were right in the same area. And then you go back to Friday. Meanwhile, we're at 43 million contracts. Really, really odd. However, that being said, at the end of the day, we kind of made up for the lack of volume with some great volume going into the earnings themselves. So that was something that we hadn't seen really a whole lot of, and we did see a great view of that yesterday at the end of the day. Last 45 minutes or so, we saw a lot of activity. I'll talk about that in just a second. Natural gas. It got all the way up. I mean, it was rocking and rolling, $9.75. And then, wow, they yanked out the carpet right out from underneath them. Finished the day underneath 9. We were pushing on 10. We finished in the 880s, somewhere in that area. And a little bit of pressure just continues to be on that gas. It did have an unbelievable run. As a matter of fact, had it been holding on to this run, it was absolutely going to be a record 1 month in this month of July this year. So that would have been something in terms of the velocity of this move, which was outstanding. We still had wheat, soy, corn all up 2, 3, 4% yesterday. So that was something that stuck out. The 2-year up above 3, the 10-year just around that 2.8 area, with Bitcoin kind of hanging around that 21,000 level. We are seeing a little bit of a bump on that today, but that's yet to come. So as we look at the sectors yesterday, consumer discretion, absolutely the leader to the downside with a lot of help from technology as well. But communications also. Communications down about 2%. Consumer discretion down well over 3%, almost 3.5%. Amazon, Target, Tesla, you get all those. Throw in Nike, all having a very, very rough performance day. Technology, a little bit of a hit to Microsoft and PayPal and Adobe and some of those names. Then you look over at the financials. Well, it was JP Morgan, Citi, Wells Fargo, Goldman Sachs, the usual suspects. Financials were down about 1.5% yesterday. So it really wasn't anywhere to hide except for healthcare. Healthcare about 1% to the upside yesterday. Names like Pfizer, J&J, Merck having a pretty decent day to kind of lift that sector up. One of my favorite sectors for sure. Energy was down about 1% yesterday, as it turns out, with Chevron, with Conoco, and some of those bigger names kind of pulling down a little bit. Nothing huge, but down about 1%. We did have a great day across the board in certain areas, 3M being one of those. Really, really solid performance day, a really explosive move to the upside. That was tandem right up there with GE. Then you got Fiserv as well. Then we also had Newmont Mines, had a pretty decent day. We had Whirlpool, a solid performance. Pepsi and Coke, throwing a little Biogen, getting back into the healthcare world with biotech. And we talked about some biotech yesterday on Rebel's Edge in terms of some of the unusual option activity we were seeing in that. If you haven't watched the Rebel's Edge, guys, you are really missing out. It's a heck of a lot of fun. It is bang, bang, bang. We're giving a little bit of the pardon the interruption sort of style. You go through the entire thing. It's a minute and a half per subject, and we're just hammering through it. Yesterday was myself and AJ. John was not able to be there. Really was a great episode for us. It was fun, had a lot of great conversations, and we talked a little bit about football, a little bit about lacrosse. We also talked about, obviously, the financial world itself and a couple of unusuals, XBI being one of those. Fortinet yesterday. That's another one that was getting a little bit of a pull, or a big pull, I should say, to the downside. Walmart leading the charge, though. Walmart absolutely pulling things down, along with some of those, it's been that up and down and back and forth that we've seen out of those cruise ships. Carnival had a tough day yesterday. Norwegian had a tough day yesterday. Zscaler, some of those types of names as well. A lot in that retail world. Names like PVH and Ralph Lauren and Lulu and those names. Tractor Supply, actually, you could add to that list as well. So we get into today. It's a busy, busy earnings. When you look back to last night, this morning, and then looking forward to the close tonight, we are absolutely packed. Everybody's been talking about it, and that's exactly what we are seeing in front of us right now. We also, just to add a little extra something to it, we got the Fed. And so we really do have a lot going on. It's going to be a very busy, active day. We're starting off very positive. Why is that? Well, last night we heard from Google. Now, I tried to explain this to a lot of people. It's amazing to me that everybody correlated what happened with Snap, that absolutely that's going to hurt everything else in that space. Well, that doesn't seem like that would be the leader I would be looking at for the rest of the space. And it turns out that maybe I was correct on that one. We had some huge buying at the end of the day in Google and in Microsoft. And we also had a little bit of Amazon as well. So you get the big three. We got some buyers in there. That was something that definitely stood out late. Those have all performed extremely nice today. And we're looking at, they actually didn't just go after these options because they were short term. They actually went out September where there's less volatility. They get a little bit of time on their hands, but also they don't have to experience the volatility crush that you sometimes get when you get into earnings. We had a great number coming from Microsoft, especially when you look at the outlook. They actually missed on their earnings, but everything else was very positive about how they discussed what things look like going forward. Google beat on revenues. Oh my goodness. How about when you take a look at Chipotle? Now, this is a name, 13% to the upside today. Absolutely ripping. People don't seem to care. They have the ability to change those prices and raise those prices. People don't seem to mind all that much. Earnings beat. We had the revenue were very strong. It was up 17% year over year when it comes to revenue. We still look back. We've got crude hanging around that 95, 96 area. Volatility right around 24. Nat gas around 860, so it's down a little bit. Nothing spectacular hit to the downside, but a little bit off of yesterday's close and a lot off of yesterday's highs. Bitcoin, 21,400, added a little bit right there. Communications leading again. Well, they've led to the downside at times, and they're leading to the upside right now, up about 3% today. Obviously, you look over at some of the various names that I've been talking about, you can kind of piece together why that's doing so well. Tech up almost 3%. It was up a little over 2% early, up 2.8% now. Consumer discretion up a couple of percent. Materials were a little bit worse. They were off more than 1%. They've kind of cut that almost in half, I would say. Staples also just kind of hanging around in negative territory right now as we're seeing the flows in other areas. And when you look at the NASDAQ, it started the day up about 180. It's been up as much as close to 300. Matter of fact, it might be up 300 now. It was up 280 last I looked. The Dow just kind of hanging right around about 125 to 135 points to the upside. So a pretty solid, interesting day in this first hour already. CMG, I mentioned already. Chipotle, unbelievable day. PayPal, extraordinary day as well. Texas Instruments reported last night. That's having a great day. Hilton, throw in Google, throw in Microsoft, throw in Boeing, throw in Salesforce, throw in Apple, all having a very, very nice performance day. What's not, and what is dragging just a little bit, are names like Sherwin-Williams. They had a profit warning and their earnings missed. The combination of that stock getting absolutely hammered today. Kraft Heinz also under a little bit of pressure. Those Chinese names, they go up and they go down. It seems like every single day, back and forth. PDD, JD, Baidu, all getting hit today. Home Depot a little bit. And then 3M after that big run yesterday. Little bit of a pullback day today. I got two unusuals for you now, and then we're going to get out of here. Walmart. Now, this one's pretty interesting because a lot of people kind of questioning unusual option activity. Well, I stood on the trading floors for an extremely long period of time. I think I understand them very well, and it's interesting to see when things happen. 2 days ago, Walmart, monster put buyer in the final minutes of the day. What do you know? The release from Walmart, and that stock got absolutely clubbed, as we know. Now, take a look at what's going on today. We were coming off of those lows a little bit. Stock was trading around 121 at the open. It was trading a little over 122 and started to move up a little bit faster as we got a buyer of just over 4,000 of Fridays expiring, July 29th expiring, the 124 calls. Those calls were going for about 60 cents up to about 90 cents. So interesting to see. Will it make that move? It's got today, it's got Thursday, it's got Friday to make this move up and through that 124 level. We'll see what happens, but that one was definitely interesting. And there was that monstrous put buying before that announcement after that put that stock down extremely hard. DraftKings is the next one. Stock trading right around 13 bucks. 4,000 of Fridays expiring, once again, the 13 and a half calls. Now, those are going for only about 24 cents. Somebody decided to hedge those and sell the 14 calls for about 10 cents. They're into this trade for 14 cents. Personally, I'm not a huge fan of that type of trade. I'd rather be for the inexpensive cost of 24 cents. I like to see that just be a lone run, and let's just see if we can make it up there. But that being said, that does give a little bit of opportunity for the stock to get up towards that 14 level. Doesn't even have to get through there, but if it does, then all of a sudden you've maxed out at 50 cents from that cost of 14. So anyway, very interesting trade to see in DraftKings. Very short term. Always remember, you've got to understand everything that goes into the options world. Theta time frame is definitely one of them. We talk about Vega all the time for volatility. We talk about Theta for time frame. All those different Greeks that go into the pricing model of the options themselves. Folks, I hope I didn't confuse you too much, but unusual options are what we actually are looking for. It's what we search for, and we've got a great team of people at Market Rebellion that are educators as well as those that can explain different ways to approach things as well. I'm Pete Najarian. The Rebels Edge will be with you tomorrow, Thursday at 1 o'clock Eastern time, live. John, myself, we're going to be hitting it hard. We got all kinds of topics, obviously, and we've got unusual, obviously, and we've got sports. Both of us have played for a long period of time in the past. We're going to be running through a couple of sports as well. Folks, have a great day at trading.